Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I want to take this time and introduce you to Shalam Yasharahla. Man, this right here is groundbreaking.
Shut up, Martin.
Sisters, I appreciate you for this one. Let's go ahead and show them how Israel get down.
In the chariot, and you know that it got me. Feeling so good, that's all I need.
We got the family in place, y'all. Drinks getting poured, see the looks on our face, y'all. It's going up.
In the chariot, and you know that it got me. Feeling so good, that's all I need.
At the feast getting right, we waiting for the kingdom, but it's finna be a hell of a night, yeah.
Long week, so I pull up. A branding on my wrist when I show up. Fingers and my toes on buff. Take my time, listen up, so I'm late showing up. I throw my body on the floor. Watch got the ice on mixing up. It's all love, cause it's all us. Color lights on, got me feeling glowed up. It's giving vibes tonight. Everybody's looking right. Bodies on the floor. It's going up, let's go. It's a family affair. On and on and on till the break of dawn. And in the kingdom to come. It's a family affair. On and on and on till the break of dawn. And in the kingdom to come.
All the fam is there. Not everybody understands the way that we go up, the way that we show up. It's always good vibes. Cajones on the grill, slapping bones until the table tilts. Spiritual conversation, I'm gaining wisdom, it's all good. We got the bishops in the house tonight. The kids are acting right. I can only imagine what it would be like when we get home.
It's giving vibes tonight. Everybody's looking right. Bodies on the floor. It's going up, let's go. It's a family affair. On and on and on till the break of dawn. And in the kingdom to come. It's a family affair. On and on and on till the break of dawn. And in the kingdom
as soon as we pull up, you know what's going down. It's a family affair, baby, so come around. Kick back and take a shot with the team. It's a vibe with the tribe sitting on cloud 9, feeling like a dream. So fly and exclusive. With the fam, big friends with the blue strip. Real love, got the spirit right. This one for the books, we going up and we ain't ending the night.
It's a family affair. On and on and on till the break of dawn. And in the kingdom to come. It's a family affair. On and on till the break of dawn. And in the kingdom to come.
True Nation,
Yeah.
Shalam Yasharahla. Y'all know what it is. Ain't no ghetto without us. Revelation 2 and 9. Tell them.
Yeah, all my brothers, yeah, we rich shock. We got the truth, we come from rich stock. That's in my tribe, I never flip-flop. Thy kingdom come, now watch it TikTok. We got this truth and now we rich up. We headed back up to the tip top. Menorah golden, watch your trip drop. We in the hood, but now we rich up. Yeah.
My folks stayed in the Hoovers, I was born in the trades. I was raised in the hundreds, but I ain't never joined the gang. Affiliated, I was with it, I ain't played no games. Wasn't banging, but I had to show I ain't no lame. Copping worth entertainment, yeah, I did my thing. Until I woke up to this truth and found out we still slaves. Niggas killing over colors, time to rise up for our brothers. Time to unify our hustles, time to lead our baby mothers out to lay like Nazareth. I was raised up out the gutter, for the homies I got locked up, not a word I never uttered. So for Yasharahla, yeah, you best believe I'll die. This ain't Christianity, you best believe
Yeah,
I'll
all my
ride.
brothers, yeah, we rich shock. We got the truth, we come from rich stock. That's on my tribe, I never flip-flop. Thy kingdom come, now watch it TikTok. We got this truth and now we rich up. We headed back up to the tip top.
We rich.
Menorah golden, watch it drip drop. We in the hood, but now we rich up. Yeah.
Reclining my seats, I'm looking at the stars. Not too long ago was blowing kush about the car. Always wanted fame until I found the 12 stars. But now a nigga rich, the wisdom got me hella far. Looking back on my life, this shit is so surreal. Like I came up on the lotto, how a nigga feel. Keep the law as the motto, now tell me what's the deal. Riding smooth, diamond chain, compliment the wheels. Yeah, that's how we pull up fly. If my brothers got an issue, then I bet I ride. Even if I take a loss, you can bet I try. Cause I'ma get a couple off, and that's before I
all my
die,
brothers, yeah, we rich shock. We got the truth, we come from rich stock. That's on my tribe, I never flip-flop. Thy kingdom come, now watch it TikTok. We got this truth and now we rich up. We headed back up to the tip top. Menorah golden, watch it drip drop. We in the hood, but now we rich up. Yeah.
It's so cold in these streets, I take the heat outside. I keep a sword like Cephas, just believe I might. Ain't an army on this earth that can see these tribes. Dressed in warlike apparel, best believe we fly. It's time to get the doctrine right, it's time to feed these sheep. What we sowing to each other, that's what we gon' reap. Shit, you niggas claim you bout that life. Some niggas banging for the set, but I'm an Israelite. He full of pride and full of shit, then I'ma cut him on sight. Haku ain't never gotta tell me twice. I'm a soldier for Christ, and Mashiach the king is not to be mocked. I love my nation, but 2/3 of y'all can still get popped. Blah.
Desire one Ariala. Yashamai. Yasharahla.
We got the truth, we come from Woodstock. That's on my tribe, I never flip-flop. For kingdom come, now watch it TikTok. We got the truth and now we rich up. We heading back up to the TikTok. Menorah golden, watch it drip drop. We in the hood, but now we rich up. Yeah.
True Nation Israelite Congregation, Shabbat Shalom, Happy Sabbath, and you are with True Nation Israelite Congregation. I am Izar Allah, and to my left is
Aman Allah.
Yep. So we're getting ready to start this lesson. Babylon is fallen. So before we do so, I want you to hit the like, share, and subscribe button so you can get this message out to as many people as you can and influence your people in righteousness to do what's right so they will also know what's coming on this wicked earth and what's already here and what's happening. So tonight's lesson is called Babylon is Fallen. How many of y'all know what Babylon is? Right here, you're absolutely right. Because today, America is called Babylon, as well as spiritual Sodom and Egypt. And we're going to show you that because I want to get into it. Let's go to Revelations 8:18. I want verse 1 and 2. And I'm going to show you Because some people be like, man, Babylon was destroyed already. Why are they talking about Babylon is fallen? Show the PowerPoint right quick. That's tonight's lesson. Babylon is fallen. It's still not showing the whole thing. I just want to see the PowerPoint. I can still see this myself. But you could put it back on us, because we know Babylon is fallen. So get that, Revelations 18.
Revelations chapter 18, verse 1. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory.
So we know Revelations is the revelation of Jesus Christ, Revelation of John the Baptist. But we know here that this is Christ's revelation of the things that to come. So go ahead, finish reading.
Verse 2, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils.
So it told you that Babylon the great is falling. Christ said, I'll tell you everything that happened before it happened, so when it happens, you know that it was me. So this is a warning for us, which is happening right now, because prophecies were told. So when things happen, you already know, right? But go ahead.
And the hold of every foul spirit.
So every foul spirit is here in America. What did they do in Babylon? They worshiped idols. They did idolatry practices. They even gave their kids up to Molech and all the things of that nature, worshiping idols and stuff. But go ahead.
And a cage of every unclean and hateful bird.
So every unclean and hateful bird, that's talking about all the wicked and evil spirits. So with that, because let's go to the PowerPoint. I'm going to show you something. Babylon, which is Babel, which means confusion. And I'm going to show y'all that according to the scriptures. Let's get it. Read that up. Genesis 11, chapter 1 through verses 1 through 9.
And the whole earth was one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar. And they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and slime, and they had slime for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build a city, and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven.
So this is where Nimrod came from. This is where the Babylonians came from. Also, the first civilization was Mesopotamia. Then you had the Babylonian Empire, which Nimrod ruled. But go ahead.
And let us make a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded.
So these children of men, they were trying to build a tower because they knew about the flood. They was like, we're not going to let that happen to us again. So we're going to build a tower all the way up to heaven to protect us. And Most High, he was like, man, they all of one voice, one language, and ain't nothing can stop them. But this is what he did, right? Go ahead.
And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. Mm-hmm. And this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do.
So when you have a bunch of people all on one accord to do wickedness, can't nothing stop them, right? Just like you got every foul bird and every foul spirit here joining with the modern-day Babylonian, which is the Greeks, the Romans, the so-called Americans, the Europeans, joining with them. Wickedness is all throughout the land, all throughout the earth, right? And they're proceeding in this wickedness, right? Because guess what? They passing laws on homosexuality. They're killing black people by the droves. Ain't nothing happening to them, right? They're not being judged. But all these people on one accord to do wickedness. And this is what happened here. And the Most High was like, nah, we got to stop that. So go ahead.
Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language.
He said, let us confound their language. Let's see what happened when he confounded their language. Go ahead.
That they may not understand one another's speech.
So they didn't understand nobody no more, right? So guess what? They were all scattered. So this is how Babylon became Babel, which means confusion. the land of confusion. But go ahead.
So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel.
So they left off to build the city. They didn't build it no more. They was trying to build a tower to heaven. Now they can't communicate with one another. So like, man, we're not going to build this no more. Go ahead.
Because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth.
So all the earth. So now you had Babylon is known as Babel, which is confusion. So let me get to my next point is the old Babylon was destroyed by the Persians and Medes, and it was prophesied in these scriptures right here. So you can read that one. Let's start with Isaiah first.
Isaiah 13 and 17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it.
So this is the Medo-Persian Empire, the Persians and the Medes. They took over Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom, which was the Babylonian kingdom. It was destroyed. Go ahead.
Their bows also shall dash the young men into pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees, excellency, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah.
So the same thing that happened to Sodom and Gomorrah happened to the old Babylonian reign. Go ahead.
It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation.
So you can look where Babylon is today, modern day Iraq. This portion of the land is not inhabited at all. And you can look that up on the map. You can look it up on history. And you can do your researches right now, and you'll see that it's not inhabited at all. Go ahead.
Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures. And the owl shall dwell there, and the satyrs shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant places. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged.
Now let's read Jeremiah 51.
Jeremiah 51 and 37. And Babylon shall become heaps, a dwelling place for dragons.
So here you have two prophets prophesying the kingdom of Babylon to be destroyed, which it was destroyed. Go ahead.
A dwelling place for dragons, and an astonishment, and a hissing without an inhabitant. They shall roar together like lions. They shall yell as lions' whelps. In their heat I will make their feasts, and I will make them drunken, that they may rejoice and sleep a perpetual sleep, and not wake.
So they was wiped off the face of the earth at this point. Go ahead.
Saith the Lord. I will bring them down like lambs to the slaughter, like rams and he-goats. So Jeremiah wrote in a book all the evil that should come upon Babylon.
Which it did happen. Go ahead.
Even all these words that are written against Babylon. And Jeremiah said to Sariah, when thou comest to Babylon, and shalt see, and shalt read all these words, then shalt thou say, O Lord, thou hast spoken against this place, to cut it off, that none shall remain in it, neither man or beast, but it shall be desolate forever. And it shall be, when thou hast made an end of reading this book, that thou shalt bind a stone to it, and cast it into the midst of the Euphrates. And thou shalt say, thus shall Babylon sink, and shall not rise from the evil that I will bring upon her.
So the old Babylon was destroyed. And now I want to show y'all something else, because I want to show y'all who runs modern day Babylon. Y'all heard of these people, right? Esau, Edom, Idumea, the Romans, the Greeks, right? The Turks. This is who took over and now runs modern day Babylon, which is called America. So you can read that scripture right there, Psalms.
Psalms 137.
Because this is a prayer that David had unto the Most High, right? Go ahead, read.
Verse 7. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it.
So they said raise it. They meant destroy Jerusalem. He told him to remember them, right? Go ahead.
Even to the foundation thereof.
And now let's see what David called the Edomites. Go ahead, read.
O daughter of Babylon.
So they were the daughter of Babylon. They took on that spirit. That's why America is called modern day Babylon till this very day. Go ahead.
Who art to be destroyed. Happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us.
So this modern day Babylon will be destroyed. So I want to get y'all this right here. So now we're going to go into a few videos about what's happening in modern day Babylon and why the scripture says Babylon is falling, Babylon is falling. Right? Yeah, it's plugged in. For the sound?
Con.
Yeah, it's plugged in. So I'm going to play it. It's not playing, huh? Oh, there you go. The aux cord is plugged in. There's no sound coming out.
Even financial markets that performed well during the past few years. The U.S. economy is falling apart at a frightening pace. Right now, pretty much every piece of hard economic data is telling us that a historic slowdown is taking place. And that is resulting in dramatic consequences for millions of Americans. Every sector of the economy is starting to falter, and the population is having to cope with the highest cost of living in nearly 4 decades. Even financial markets that performed well during the past few years, despite the efforts of the health crisis, are currently experiencing a meltdown. At this point, everyone can see that we're officially entering another devastating economic downturn that can erupt a lot sooner than previously expected. Financial and economic losses are rising to the tune of trillions of dollars with each passing month. Conversely, the U.S. debt load is soaring to levels never before seen in human history. Do you have any idea how alarming that is? We must start paying attention to all of the alarm bells that are ringing, because things are really getting out of control out there. For that reason, in today's video, we've compiled some astonishing numbers that reveal the rapid decay of the U.S. economy. But before checking this list, please support us by leaving a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel so you don't miss our upcoming lists. Without further ado, here are 20 really big numbers that show that the U.S. economy is starting to fall apart very rapidly. 1. Over the past 2 years, the U.S. ran a trade deficit of over $1.53 trillion. In 2020, the gap in goods and services trade rose to $678.7 billion. Last year, the U.S. trade deficit hit nearly $860 billion. And this year, we're right on track to run a trade deficit that's even larger than the sum of both prior years. In March alone, the U.S. trade deficit hit a monthly record high of $109 billion, according to Commerce Department data. 2. The U.S. is over $30.4 trillion in debt, which makes up for the greatest debt bubble in the history of the world. This means that our debt burden is bigger than the GDP of China, Japan, and India combined. 3. The United States owes China approximately $1.08 trillion, as the Eastern superpower is one of the largest foreign holders of U.S. debt in the form of Treasury securities. 4. The rest of the $29 trillion debt load is either held by the U.S. population or the government. According to FEE calculations, if every single household in America was forced to pay off that debt, each one of them would have to disburse over $231,000, or each person would have to pay around $90,000. Actually, even if we paid $1 per second of the year, it would still take 713,470 years to pay down that entire sum. 5. Every day we spend more than $900 million on interest payments on that debt. With that money, we could afford to pay for a 4-year college degree with all expenses included for around 27,464 graduating high schoolers on a daily basis. These figures show us that we're not investing in our future, but we are trapped in a bubble of debt that only grows bigger every year. 6. Meanwhile, in 2022, the student loan debt in the U.S. rose to $1.762 trillion. At this point, 1 in 4 Americans, or 44.7 million people, carry student loan debt. On average, each one of these students is $37,172 in debt. 7. At the same time, as virtually everything is getting more expensive in America, consumer debt is also soaring. In the first quarter of 2022, consumer debt rose to a staggering $15.84 trillion, with credit card debt reaching $841 billion in the first 3 months of 2022, according to data released by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. 8. Enough about debt. Did you know that approximately 800,000 permanent business closures happened over the past year? According to data collected by Business Insider, small businesses and individual companies accounted for 2/3 of the closures, while about 1/3 of that figure represented retail store shutdowns. 9. Over the past year, the cost of living rose 8.6%, but wages actually shrank. In fact, the wage gap between CEOs and U.S. workers jumped to 670-to-1 last year, meaning that the average CEO received $670 in compensation for every $1 single dollar the worker received, according to the Institute for Policy Studies. The report tracked 300 top U.S. companies and found that CEOs made an average of $10.6 million, while the average U.S. worker made only $23,968 in 2020.
You could put it on us, that's the end of the video. But I definitely want to show y'all something. Talk about this right quick. When a country is in debt, it's now, let's not say a country, let's say a people. Like you live in a house, right? You pay your rent, you go to work, you get credit cards. Now you're in debt, right, to that credit card company. You can't pay those credit cards back. What do they start taking? They start taking everything else, right? Your property, your land. It was a video that I shared a while back where China owns a lot of America because America is in debt to China. So America's actually falling. America they have some resources, but not a lot of resources anymore because everything is imported, and the things that we have here, they export it, which is crazy. But the Most High said he'll put strong confusion on your enemies, right? The scripture also says once we start keeping these laws, all the curses that he put on us, he'll put on them. So Esau is in strong delusion. You're in trillions of dollars, trillions and trillions of dollars in debt to your enemy, and you still think you're going to continue to survive and print money? That's bringing the American dollar value down lower and lower and lower, right? They raised the, did y'all see the part where it said the average CEO made $10 million a year and the average citizen that was working made $23,000 a year? Even though minimum wage is up, you got the cost of gas went up, the cost of food went up, the cost of living went up. So this country, it actually gets worse Because now you're working harder, working more hours, and you're not getting anything. Just like the scripture says, it says the day's wages is going to be like a loaf of bread is going to be like a day's wages. And that's what's happening. How much is a soda now? $3, $4, right? No, not the can. I'm talking about you go to 7-Eleven and all that. A little under $3, but that's still high for a soda, right? So let's go back to the PowerPoint. I'm going to show y'all something. Because this is what America does when they continue to borrow money from other nations. This is what the Most High says about them. America is in debt, right? Go ahead, read that out.
Ecclesiasticus 18:33. Be not made a beggar by banqueting upon borrowing.
Why haven't America paid their debt back? They're begging other countries by banqueting on borrowing. What else do they have in their possession that they could do this with, that they could bargain with? Workers, people. Average American made $23,000 a year. Guess who made most of the money? What they call the 1%ers. They made $10 million a year. But that bankrupts the economy. That bankrupts the people. Because what's going to happen to the poor people when they need to eat, when they need to be housed? They're going to start taking stuff, right? It's going to be 1492 all over again. But go ahead, finish reading.
When thou hast nothing in thy purse, for thou shalt lie in wait for thine own life and be talked on.
So it said you're going to lie in wait for your own life. Isn't America doing that? Continually borrowing money, continually getting more and more further in debt to other countries, especially your enemies. What's going to happen when they call that debt forward and you can't pay? They're going to go to war, right? Everybody's fighting over the main resources right now, which is Africa. You got Russia there, you got China there, you got America there, right? So whoever has the most money is going to be the one in the best position. Because America keep relying on their military. But this is a melting pot. You got all types of people in your military. A lot of your enemies are in your military. Remember the Afghan man? Afghanistan, the man who in Fort Hood, Texas, he shot up one of the military bases. So how you think, how is America going to survive? They're not. They got sleeper cells here that's ready to destroy the American way. Like, in Chinese, they call them boots on the ground, if y'all know. But America is continuously banking up on borrowing. And what the scripture says, for thou shalt lie and wait for thy own life. They bringing destruction on themselves. This is how America, Babylon is falling, y'all. So read that other one, Sirach.
Sirach 21:8. He that buildeth his house with other men's money.
Isn't America being built with other men's money? Let's see what the scriptures say about that.
Is like one that gathereth himself stones for the tomb of his burial.
So America's gathering stones for the tomb of their own burial. Because they want to continue to borrow money, continue to go further and further in debt. They so far in debt, they can't even get out for years. Y'all heard how long the man said it would take? But that's the American way. If you ain't got it, borrow it. And they can't file chapter 13 with the Chinese because that law don't stand everywhere. That's only here in America. Only Trump could do that. So we're going to go to another thing. Go to this next slide. Babylon is fallen indeed. Y'all see that, right?
After 2 years of total Democratic control, this country is falling apart, dangerously so. Look at the stock market today. It tanked yet again. Inflation at a 42-year high, interest rates now going up through the roof. This is really crushing everyone in this country, especially the poor, the middle class, our fellow Americans on fixed incomes. And now top economists are calling stagflation, quote, unavoidable. the CEO of Wells Fargo, saying there is no question bad days are ahead. Analysts, Morgan Stanley, smart people, they're blaming the Biden administration for their inflation. And even far-left Vox is blasting Joe's out-of-control spending. And it gets even worse. Today, yet once again, gas prices shooting to the moon, and today another brand new record high price for a gallon of gasoline. In fact, every day for the past 9 days, gas prices set one new record after another. Now, this year, American families will have to fork over anywhere between $5,200 to $5,700 and going higher, thanks to Joe Biden's inflation. By the way, if you drive a car, you're going to pay $2,000 more on average just for gasoline this year over when Donald Trump was president. And of course, the administration likes to blame all of our problems on corporations and Vladimir Putin and something they're calling ultra MAGA. Oh, you mean when gas prices were cheap, the border was under control, well, Operation Warp Speed actually worked, and we didn't run out of tests after 2 years, and every other disaster from Afghanistan to the war in Europe. This week, Biden's new press secretary didn't seem to know who to blame or what to say. It was not a good start. Take a look.
How does raising taxes on corporations lower the cost of gas, the cost of a used car, the cost of food for everyday Americans?
So look, I think we encourage those who have done very well, right, especially those who care about climate change, to support a fair tax code that doesn't charge manufacturers, workers, cops, builders a higher percentage of their earnings, that the most fortunate people in our nation, and not let that stand in the way of reducing energy costs and fighting this existential problem, if you think about that as an example. And to support basic collective bargaining rights as well, right? That's also important. But look, it is, you know, without having a fair tax code, which is what I'm talking about, then like manufacturing workers, cops, you know, it's not fair for them to have to pay higher taxes than the folks who are not paying taxes at all.
Forget that word salad you just heard. Take a look at your screen. Look at Quinnipiac. 2%. That's right. 2% of Americans now believe our economy is in excellent shape, and they know just who to blame. A whopping 63% blame Joe Biden, our ultra failure of a president. Want to talk about ultra? He's an ultra failure. By the way, his approval rate, look at that, is at 32%. Over the past year and a half, as Americans have suffered from a supply chain crisis, now a baby formula shortage, spiking inflation, spiking gas prices, a stock market in a free fall, the Biden administration, they were busy tackling the real crisis, disinformation. In fact, they spent a considerable amount of time and energy and effort to develop a brand new Ministry of Truth that we've been talking about to police all of your thoughts. We do have great news tonight. The Ministry of Truth, or Disinformation Governance Board, as it was coined, is now on pause. And that far-left lunatic tapped to lead this shady new venture has now resigned. And as it turns out, former disinformation czar Nina Jankowicz was one of the biggest perpetrators and purveyors of disinformation in the entire country. Now, she praised Russian disinformation dossier author Christopher Steele. She accused President Trump of being a Russian plant. She referred to the Hunter Biden laptop scandal as a debunked Trump campaign product. And like many other prominent Democrats, Nina Jankowicz is a conspiracy theorist who wants all Americans to believe her twisted opinions and lies are facts. Now, today, when asked about the disinformation czar's resignation, well, Biden's press secretary was once again short on answers. Take a look.
So if it's pausing because you think the board was mischaracterized, then the disinformation board is being shut down because of disinformation? Is that what's happening here?
Look, I mean, the board was put forth for a purpose, right? To make sure that we really did address what was happening across the country when it came to disinformation.
And it's okay to wait now 75
but no,
days.
it's just going. It's going to pause. There's been a mischaracterizations from outside forces, and so now what we're going to do is we're going to pause it, and we're going to do an assessment. But the work doesn't stop. We're still going to continue the work.
They're going to work. So is it alive or is it gone? Anyway, Does anyone in the Biden administration have a straight answer for anything? Do they take any responsibility? Have they ever heard of the phrase, the buck stops here? Now, keep in mind, even on lucid days, President Biden is totally incompetent. His DHS secretary cares more about policing your thoughts than securing our border. His Treasury secretary is a lunatic who told us inflation was transitory. His vice president, totally in over her head, inept, and she never really seems to know what she's talking about. Take a look.
That is especially true when it comes to the climate crisis, which is why we will work together and continue to work together to address these issues, to tackle.
So, y'all see how mixed up and corrupt this country is? You can put it back on us, huh? Biden chose people that can't even answer questions correctly or directly. So I want to show y'all a scripture right quick. Get that?
Ezekiel chapter 28 and verse 16. By the multitude of thy merchandise, they have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire.
So the Most High don't like this. Just bad practice all around, right? Y'all see how America get down? Also, the scripture says a nation divided against itself cannot stand. How is this nation going to continue to stand and it's corrupt? And they're going against each other now. It's not going to stand for long, right? You're going to have everybody going their way and doing what they want to do and doing how they want to do. And ultimately, you're going to have the Most High come in and destroy this place because of all the wickedness, right? So that's how Babylon going to fall. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. I got another one for y'all. I want to show y'all something.
After 2 years of
I want to show y'all something that further brings down not only the economy, but the state of the people in this country.
Is loitering with the intent of prostitution. It is now sitting on the governor's desk, and it's a controversial bill, as critics say that it will make the bill harder for police to rescue vulnerable people from sex trafficking. And supporters say that law enforcement uses loitering laws to criminalize Black, brown, and LGBTQ communities at disproportionate rates. Political reporter Morgan Reiner joins us now. And Morgan, this actually could have been on the governor's desk weeks ago.
Alex, the bill actually both passed narrowly the Assembly floor and the Senate floor back in September. So that's 9 months ago. But in a rare move, the author wanted more time to engage with the governor before sending it his way.
Even if it seems obvious,
we're observing females that are dressed provocatively with very minimal clothing, flagging down vehicles and or impeding traffic.
A bill sitting on Governor Gavin Newsom's desk would prevent police from arresting a person for standing and waiting around with the end goal of sex work.
We know that women of color, we know that trans people are much more likely to be stopped and harassed under the current law by law enforcement, because the current law encourages law enforcement to be profiling people based on how they look.
Equality California helped craft the bill. Sam Garrett-Pate told me California's current loitering laws also discourage women from coming forward.
Criminalizing victims of sex trafficking, of human trafficking, does not work. It discourages them from coming forward to law enforcement, and it empowers their traffickers, because the traffickers are able to tell them, don't go to the police or you'll get arrested yourself.
Jonathan Keller is the president of the California Family Council. His organization is fighting the bill.
It makes it harder to help vulnerable women that are in crisis. It makes it more difficult to prosecute and to hold accountable the men that are abusing victims of human trafficking.
While Garrett-Pate said police profile communities of color, Keller said if this bill passes, it's those same communities that will be impacted the most.
This is specifically talking about street walking and loitering for prostitution in public. This is going to affect poor communities. It's going to affect Black and brown communities more, but it's going to actually harm them and make those places much less safe and much more hostile for families and for women and girls.
So Morgan, what happens with the bill now?
The governor has 11 days to sign it. And
You could put it back on us. But y'all see how America The United States is making laws legal for prostitution. Instead of saying, you know what, we're not going to deal with the LGBTQ people because they trying to turn this into something about them being harassed and all that by the police, which I don't see them getting harassed by the police. I see African Americans definitely getting harassed by the police. And I see kids getting kidnapped. They're not worried about the kids getting kidnapped. They're more worried about the corrupt state of the women and the men, right? So I want to get a scripture before I want to get a scripture because that's confusion in itself. Like the scripture says, they frame mischief by a law. How was that law going to help those little kids or children? It's not. So I want to get Leviticus 19 and verse 29. You could put it on the PowerPoint out right quick.
Leviticus 19 and 29. Do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to become a whore.
So the scripture says, don't prostitute your daughter to cause her to become a whore. They're making it legal here in California. And when they make it legal in California, all throughout the United States, because everybody follow the big states, whether it happened in New York or California, Los Angeles, right? And all the other countries or the small cities or states, they follow suit. They're like, oh, it's cool over here. We're going to do this out here. Because we know it's legal in Vegas, prostitution, right? But now it's legal in L.A. And you see the hoes walking around here everywhere, right? But go ahead.
Lest the land fall to whoredom.
So it said, lest the land fall to whoredom, not just the people. The whole entire land is going to fall to whoredom. And that's what you have now. It's wicked out here, right? But go ahead.
And the land become full of wickedness.
It become full of wickedness. L.A. is full of wickedness, right? Because of prostitution. You got Figueroa, you got Santa Monica, you got Sunset, you got Vegas Strip, everywhere, right? So the lands fall into wickedness. So this is going to furtherly bring on the fall of America, right? You found that scripture? Yeah, Exodus 21 and 16. And I also want to read this. You could put it back on us, Exodus 21 and 16 right quick. Because they mention kidnapping the kids, sex trafficking and all that. This is what the scripture says should happen to somebody, right?
Verse 16, and he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death.
So if America really trusted in God, how they say, in God we trust, they got it on the money and all that. If they really trusted in the Most High, if they kidnap a man or they sell him, right? It says he be found in his hand. What's supposed to happen?
He shall surely be put to death.
It's that simple, right? They don't have to change the loitering laws to make it legal for street prostitution. All they got to do is enforce one law. But they don't do that here. So Babylon is ready to fall. It's falling, y'all, as y'all can see that. Now I want to get let's go back to the PowerPoint. Because this country, man, they don't know how to do anything right here. But this is the things that they do, y'all.
Hi folks, this is Black Flag Prepper. Thank you for tuning in with me today. I'm kind of doing a lunch video here. I wanted to post from something really disturbing I just found. A video, and even though the video may not be new, it is still relevant today. And for those of you that didn't see it, you're going to want to watch. You're not going to want to miss this. This is straight from the mouth of a farmer himself, telling you to be prepared, telling you what's coming, and telling you what they are doing to each and every farm out there that has the potential to sustain large numbers of people, big farms, sometimes even little farms, just to wipe them off the map because they're creating this shortage. They're creating it. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not, it's real. That's just what they're doing. And I just came across this video, and it's just, my heart sunk. And I think that you should watch it and listen to what this man has to say and just prepare accordingly. We're in deep trouble, and you guys, you need to watch this. And so yeah, here it is, and I thank you for watching.
And coming to you from the headwaters of Bitter Creek, Archer County, North Texas, we have to talk. State officials will be assisting to help identify potential alternative markets if a producer is unable to move animals, and if necessary, advise and assist on depopulation and disposal methods. Ladies and gentlemen, we are plowing under vegetable crops from coast to coast. We are euthanizing millions of chickens.
When he say euthanizing, that means they're killing, they're slaughtering. But that's the term, so they don't get in trouble. Euthanizing.
Are aborting sows and burying feeder pigs. We are dumping milk by the hundreds of thousands of gallons, and now they are preparing us to depopulate the fat cattle ready to harvest because of a bottleneck created by the effects of COVID. This thing hasn't been created by COVID, but the effects of COVID and the logistics therein. Yesterday, the first shipment of imported beef from the country of Namibia hit the shores of the United States of America. And
so with that being said, y'all better make sure when you get that meat, look at that package. Make sure it's meat here, because it takes a long time to come from Africa to the United States. That meat gets spoiled real quick. Also, too, they don't put regulations on their meat the way we put regulations on our meat, right? So we got to pray to the Most High even more now, because it's crazy out here. And
yet this morning, they are telling us to prepare to euthanize harvest-ready cattle. It is time we get food on the shelves, because if you're not concerned about this food supply problem, you better be. We have a huge supply and demand of food across this nation. We can feed the world ourselves, and yet we're destroying our harvests. At the same time, we are importing beef from other countries, beef that is less regulated than our beef, less safe, not as high quality a product, and yet it's happening. At the same time, they are preparing for us to euthanize our harvests. That doesn't sound like sustainability to me, but it is part of the overall goal to vertically integrate your food system. You see, they cannot have control of the people unless they have control of the food, the water, the land, production. It is time we get back to work. We are of, by, and for the people. This is not Nancy Pelosi's country. This is not Donald Trump's country. This is your country, and you're going to go hungry.
And while American farmers are destroying their harvests, U.S. beef is exported to China. U.S. meat plants are closing at a rapid rate, including Cargill Meat, who supplies 22% of the U.S. meat market, and who partnered with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in 2018 to end livestock production, while expanding the production of genetically modified soy.
You could put it back on us, huh? But y'all see that? Y'all see how this country is being ran? They're destroying crops. They're destroying crops purposely. But who do you think orchestrating that? He's the Most High, right? He said, all the curses I put on my people because they're disobedience, and you're way disobedient than them. I'm going to do this to you. That's crazy for a country that say they want to survive to destroy their own crops, to deliberately pay people to do that, to deliberately cause a food shortage, right? To deliberately destroy their own, because whether they're trying to destroy us, they're also destroying their own people. which is crazy. So I want to get a scripture. I want to get this. Let's get Sirach 10. I want 1 through 3. Because how many of y'all in here would tell your kids, your cousins, or your loved ones, go in their house, look in their refrigerator, be like, man, throw all that stuff out. You don't need that. Would y'all tell them that? Knowing that they needed some good food at that? Go ahead, read that.
Sirach 10, verse 1. A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered.
So it says a wise judge will instruct his people. How wise is Biden for telling his people to destroy the crops, to get rid of things that they need to survive? Not wise at all. Go ahead.
As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers.
So are his officers. Who's enforcing that? The police, the federal government, the Federal Reserve, all that, right? Go ahead.
And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein.
So his people were doing the same thing. You seen the truckers, they was letting all that stuff out, and the one who's driving the tractor, they destroying the crops. For what? Y'all gonna need to eat this stuff one day too, right?
And the law even says that for the poor to leave what was not gathered for the poor to glean. So how much of that not even being gathered is just being wasted?
Wasted.
That's wicked.
Right? Go ahead, finish reading.
Verse 3. An unwise king destroyeth his people.
So is Biden wise? Read it. This is him right here.
An unwise king destroyeth his people.
So he's destroying his own people. Right, go ahead.
But through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited.
So the city will be easily inhabited if they follow what thus saith the Lord, right? So I can't wait till we get back in rulership and we keeping these law, statutes, and covenants of the Most High, because it's going to be lovely. We're going to have, the rich are going to have crops. The poor, they're going to be able to glean. Nobody going to go hungry, right? Let's get this, what'd you say? The love of money, right? It might not even be the love of money, because the 1%, they got the money. You seen how much it said the wealthy CEOs made? Right. $10 million a year. The average person, $23,000 a year. Yeah. Yeah. So we know that ain't for the people. So let's go to the PowerPoint, man. Let's get this last slide. I got one more slide for y'all. It's important right here. Not that one, this one.
Let me now show you a photo. What do you think this looks like? This is not Mars.
Don't that look like the river Euphrates? Y'all been looking at it up? Remember the scripture said when it dry up, where we going to be? Going to be going home, but guess what?
It is the United States of America.
This right here in California.
United States of America. This is Lake Mead, America's largest
well, not
reservoir.
California, Nevada.
Its water
Lake
levels
Mead.
have fallen to 28%. It is 175 feet lower than it used to be in the year 2000. What do you think is happening here? The U.S. is battling extreme heat and low rainfall, and the result looks like this. Almost all of the American states are experiencing drought conditions. In some, it's severe, in some, exceptional, like in the case of Texas. Here, farmers have had to sell their cows for slaughter well ahead of schedule. Why? Because they could not afford to keep the cattle. Water sources have dried up, and there is no grass to feed the cows. Farmers in Lone Star have downed their herd size by 50%. 43% in Mexico, 41% in Oregon. 37% of American farmers have killed their existing crops. They're convinced that crops won't mature under such dry conditions. How dry are we talking about? The U.S. experienced the third hottest July on record. In parts of Texas, the average temperature was around 38 degrees. For the U.S., this is beyond normal. As we speak, 60% of West, South, and Central Plains have been hit by severe or exceptional drought. In Arizona and Nevada, the water level in the Colorado River is nearing its lowest point ever. The river supplies water to some 40 million people, both in the U.S. and in Mexico. It also supports agricultural production in the area, feeds Lake Mead and Lake Powell. But this river is in the throes of a drought. The shoreline is receding and skeletons are emerging. 5 sets of human skeletons have emerged from Lake Mead since the month of May. A World War II boat has also emerged. So have bathtub rings. Authorities say if water levels continue to fall, the Colorado will not be able to generate electricity. So Arizona and Nevada have been told to limit the amount of water they pump from the river. In California, residents have been asked to cut power use. Supplies too have reached to its breaking point. In Las Vegas and some other cities, authorities have banned lawns, meaning you cannot have grass patches in housing societies, commercial sites, or sidewalks. That's because the grass consumes too much water. So turfs are now being dug up. Some are being replaced by desert plants. Some are just being covered with gravel. This is the state of the United States of America. 50% of California's farmers have had to remove their crops. This is a state that has high fruit and nut tree crops, California. Why is all of this happening? We all know the answer to the question. It's climate change. We've spoken about this and its causes over and over again. So let's focus instead on what this extreme weather means for those watching us from the US. 1, it means a summer of extremes. Parts of California, for example, recorded temperatures up to 43 degrees Celsius on the 17th of August. Extreme heat also risks wildfires, many of which are already blazing in the US. And temperature is not the only thing to worry about. There's also high food prices since orchards have been destroyed. Crops have been raised. There's bound to be an imbalance in demand and supply. Reports say fruits, nuts and vegetables in the US mostly come from states hit by droughts. What about meat? Currently, the market is flooded with cattle. Ranchers are selling off their herd. Calves that would usually sell for up to $800 are reportedly now being sold for $70. But once the market consumes these excess animals, the ranchers are left with a smaller breeding herd and prices are bound to go up. What about the rest of the world, even if you're not in the US? And your budget will feel the burn of this extreme weather. Take almonds, for example. I'm assuming a lot of you consume them. Well, did you know California grows 80% of the world's almonds? The drought has hit almond production, and our markets worldwide will feel the shortage. Same with wheat, corn, soybean, and other American exports. You know what they say? You reap what you sow. For decades now, we have sown the seeds of climate change, and now the U.S.
That's good. But y'all see the conditions of Babylon? The Most High know how to bring it down, right? It's like, y'all can't do it. Vengeance is mine. And he's definitely doing it, right? So with that, let's get this. Let's get Sirach, chapter 15. We're going to read 5 through 21. We're going to show the power of the Most High. He know how to bring destruction to a people. He know how to bring confusion on the people, right? They destroying their own crops and all that. For what? And you needed to eat. Then the scripture tells us when we go to war and we take over a city, the Most High told us don't cut down the trees. These fools is cutting down their own vegetation, getting rid of the stuff that they need to nourish their bodies. 15 verse 5.
Verse 5. She shall exalt him above his neighbors, and in the midst of the congregation shall she open his mouth. He shall find joy and a crown of gladness.
That's Sirach 15?
Yeah. 5.
Hold on, let me get there.
Hold on a second.
Hold up, let me get there. Make sure I wrote the right scripture down. Because you know how when the Most High always does good things, they say, won't he do it? But he bringing famine and terrible things upon the earth. Won't he do it? Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I'm going to read from verse 6.
Ecclesiastes 15, he going to read verse 6.
Okay. He shall find joy and a crown of gladness, and she shall cause him to inherit an everlasting name. But foolish men shall not attain unto her, and sinners shall not see her. For she is far from pride, and men that are liars cannot remember her.
So who's liars? The men of Babylon, right? Esau, right? Edom, right? Go ahead.
Praise is not seemly in the mouth of a sinner, for it was not sent him of the Lord.
Go ahead.
For praise shall be uttered in wisdom, and the Lord will prosper it. Say not thou, it is through the Lord that I fell away, for thou oughtest not to do the things he hateth. Say not thou, he hath caused me to err, for he hath no need of the sinful man. The Lord hateth all abomination, and they that fear God love it not. He himself made man from the beginning, and left him in the hand of his counsel. If thou wilt to keep the commandments, and to perform acceptable faithfulness, he hath set fire and water before thee. Stretch forth thy hand unto whether thou wilt. Before man is life and death, and whether him liketh shall be given him. For the wisdom of the Lord is great, and he is mighty in power, and beholdeth all things.
Isn't he? Right? But go ahead.
And his eyes are upon them that fear him, and he knoweth every work of man. He hath commanded no man to do wickedly, neither hath he given any man license to sin.
So he haven't given any man license to sin. But you see Esau, he commits all the things that are against the Most High, right? And what does that prompt the Most High to do? To destroy him, to bring down Babylon, right? This is how it's going to fall, right? And they're going to be caught in their own conceit, right? You want to say something, Nat?
No. I guess since we're speaking. So the Most High, as far as this modern day Babylon, what we see with the evidence that's being presented, he's drying up rivers. You read that a couple times in the book of Revelations, one in particular. Yeah, one in particular doing with the Euphrates, but I mean, this one too. It's Revelations chapter 9, or actually chapter 7 and verse 10. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the waters and upon the fountains of the waters. So, if you want to
explain it.
I mean, so as far as what we're dealing with right here, that's literally talking about, the natural resources of Babylon, because that's what the main gist of Revelations talks about in destruction is Babylon, this modern day Babylon. The rivers is being destroyed just like it said. As far as the method going about doing it, I mean, we're not seeing at this moment, stars or fire and brimstone falling down from heaven, but the principle is that the Most High is cutting off the life support system of this country, amongst other things, with the rivers and the food shortages and such.
Yep, absolutely. So let's get Revelations 18, and we're going to read 2 through 5.
Revelations 18 and 2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils.
So y'all see how Babylon is falling, right? Y'all see why the scripture gave it a past tense. It's falling, like it's happening already. It's happening now. Babylon is falling, right? Go ahead.
The habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her.
Isn't America the melting pot for all countries to come to? All nationalities of people to come, and they leave their laws. You got Chinese, you got Afghanistanians, what else? Armenians, all that. You even got the fake Jewish. They all practice Christmas, right? They all do Halloween. They practice the customs of America, right? They worship the idols, American idols, right? Go ahead.
And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies.
What does America try to do when all the countries don't do right by America? They put sanctions on them, right? But go ahead. Those are the merchants that it's talking about. But go ahead.
And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins.
So the Most High, we can't be partakers of Babylon's sins. He wants to come out of this wicked country. in our mind, in our thoughts, right? In our actions, right? Go ahead.
And that you receive not of her plagues.
So how are we going to receive of the plagues of America? If you be joined to them, you're going to receive their plagues, just like them. The pain, the anguish, the destruction, the death, right? The murder, you're going to receive all of that. And we see our people going through that right now, right? California, the highest murder rate in April. Even now, brothers and sisters, Latinos, Native Americans, African Americans, all are being gunned down and being killed and murdered in some way, form, or fashion, right? Through the food, through the water, right? Through violence. They even had the highest spike in the last 6 months of racial crimes committed against African Americans and Latinos by Esau, by white folks. So when we out here, y'all got to watch y'all back when y'all out here, because the hate crimes are on the rise again. All here in Babylon, right? But go ahead. Or you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just to.
Oh, go ahead.
To mention that. I mean, merchandise. I mean, the scriptures talk about what we just read right now about, the merchants and everything, both internationally and within. That business mindset is a big reason why, at least in hoods and stuff like that, with black and brown Israelites and such like that, bad business is what causes, a lot of these deaths to happen as well too, because people aren't doing and knowing how to do business righteously, and that's on the micro level to, the bigger level as far as dealing with debt. America not doing anything about the debt with the other nations and such. So bad business is causing a lot of these, obvious murders. And they say, what do they say? Follow the money, right? When you follow the money, you're able to see the state of a business or such like that. So when you can read numbers and money like that, you can see that Babylon is falling according to just merchandise and such. But what scripture do you want?
Bad business, right? You can finish reading that in Revelations.
Verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues.
So the plagues are what? Everything that's happening right now, the destruction, the famine, those are all the plagues. Go ahead.
For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works. And the cup which she hath filled, to her double.
So the Most High said, reward her even as she had rewarded you, double unto her, according to her works. So everything that America is doing to us, Babylon is doing to us, Sodom and Egypt is doing to us, it said reward to her double. So we went through poorness, we went through slavery, we're still going through this stuff, right? Our people getting gunned down. The Most High said reward to her double. So imagine what's going to happen when all of the destruction start coming, the physical destruction, not just the economic destruction, but the physical, the murder and the killing, right? Because China is already on America's head, and also Russia is already on America's head, right? But go ahead.
Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire.
So it's going to be hell to pay when all this stuff come, right? So we don't want to partake in her sins. We need to come out of their ways, right? So we don't receive of all of these plagues that's coming on Babylon, right? Go ahead.
Verse 9, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her.
So they're going to be crying, right? Like, man, I miss America. I miss Babylon. They did great things for us, right? Go ahead.
When they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, alas, alas, the great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come.
So who going to bring this judgment? The Most High and Yahweh Shai. It said in 1 hour has it come. That's going to be quick, right? How fast are you going to be at elite? How fast from here to the United States? I mean, can you drive from California to New York? Take you some hours, right? It said in 1 hour this place is going to be destroyed. Because there ain't gonna be nowhere to hide. Only way you're going to get up out of here is through them chariots. Through the Most High guiding you up out of here. You ever seen a fire burn through the forest? And how the animals and the people can't outrun the fire? Just imagine in 1 hour this place is going to be up in smoke. But go ahead.
And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore.
Yep.
The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and of pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all thine wood and all manner of vessels of ivory and all manner of vessels of most precious wood and of brass and iron and marble.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
And cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil and fine flour and wheat and beast and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men.
So everything is going to be destroyed, right? But go ahead.
And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find no more at all.
Mm-hmm. Keep going.
The merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing.
So ain't nobody going to want to come here? Like, nah, man, they going to sit back crying because they don't want to be in the destruction of Babylon, right? Go ahead.
And saying, alas, alas, the great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls.
Y'all ever seen the American flag? Blue, red, which is the scarlet, and that fine gold with them fringes around it, right? Y'all been in the court building, y'all seen that, right? But go ahead. This is what it's talking about.
For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company and ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off.
Mm-hmm. What'd you say?
I'm sorry. That made me remember something. There's a lot of issues with the ports, like at the port of Long Beach, and just imports. You know how the boats, the ships have to come to, deliver the exports from those countries. I think that's still a big issue today. So that's just going hand in hand. Just all this business that's collapsing and such like that. So it's real. That's it.
I want to read this scripture right quick. 2 Ezra 15:41. It says, fire and hail and flying sword. You can stay there out because I need you to finish reading. It says, fire and hail and flying swords and many waters that all fields may be full and all rivers with the abundance of great waters. So these are the things that's going to happen in this wicked place. But go back to Revelations 18 and verse 18.
Verse 18. And cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, alas, alas, that great city wherein we were made rich, and all that had ships in the sea, by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour she is made desolate.
So she's made desolate. What happened to Babylon back in the days when the prophets prophesied that it would be destroyed? Huh? Who was put to death? No, they wasn't put to death. It came to pass. Old Babylon was destroyed, and it's being prophesied now that this Babylon will be destroyed. And it's going to happen, y'all. We the living proof of everything that's happening. Everything that I showed y'all. All the videos of Babylon is falling right now before our eyes. So don't forget that, y'all. And with that, I say shalom.